Do you want a financially secure future, not just for yourself, but for your loved ones as well? This is Generations of Wealth, the podcast that breaks down the most effective wealth building strategies you can easily apply to your own life. Join investor and international best-selling author Derek Dombeck in exploring practical tips and sound advice on building a profitable business, creating a powerful brand, or getting into the thriving world of real estate investing. This is your chance to create your very own financial roadmap to live your vision, love your life. Let's begin this discussion with your host, Derek Dombeck.
Welcome to the Generations of Wealth podcast. I'm your host, Derek Dombeck. If I look a little fuzzy because you're watching this on video, I am recording remotely today. So it's still going to be an awesome program. Actually, this went really long. I'm doing the intro after we recorded, and Igor Kheifets just brought it. That's all I can say. His expertise is in building email lists and marketing to that list. And so in the spirit of that, I want to say a few things before we bring Igor on. Number one, if you're a brand new listener, thanks for finding us. If you've been here all along or you've been listening for a while, thanks for coming back. And go to thegenerationsofwealth.com. Check out the shows if you missed them before or re-listen to them. And at thegenerationsofwealth.com, you can also find out what we have for resources. You can get the Next Level of Your Life book, the Transformational Journey book, both that I was a part of and are international best-selling. You can also get information about our upcoming cruise, the Generations of Wealth Voyage, our mastermind, the Circle of Trust, and my negotiations training called No Means Not Yet. So one-stop shop, go to thegenerationsofwealth.com. And self-serving, because it's my show, if you have a large email list and you would like to talk to me about working on an affiliation, which will make a lot more sense after you listen to Igor, reach out to me. You can send me an email directly to derek@globalgow.com. And for everybody else listening, if there's ever anything I can do for you, reach out to me as well, derek@globalgow.com. So I'm super, super excited to bring Igor Kheifets to the show, and it is 100% self-serving because what he's going to talk to us about today is something I was terrible at for the first 2/3 of my career. Igor, thanks for being with me, man. I really appreciate you giving us some of your time. If you wouldn't mind, just tell the audience a little bit about yourself, and we'll jump in with a whole lot of stories and questions.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me. I'm a Ukrainian-born Israeli immigrant who now lives in Toronto, and pretty much every dollar that I've made, I can track it back to an email that I sent out, and that's because I've kind of stumbled into this whole idea that you can build an email list of people who like you and trust you, and then you can email them with different offers, and when they buy them, you make money. These could be your offers or other people's offers. It's called affiliate marketing. But essentially, the list is what I rely on day in and day out to make money. And it's almost like my own private ATM that I can cash out, pretty much every single day. So I'm really excited to share with the audience why they should be building a list, how they could build a list. And I'm so excited about it that I've devoted a good part of the last 5 years or so to teaching other people how to do it. We wrote this book, which became an Amazon bestseller, The List Building Lifestyle Confession of an Email Millionaire. And we got a podcast on the same name and a big community as well, where we teach people how to build a list.
Well, that's awesome. I do want to go a little bit back to the beginning because you didn't just one day decide to build a list. I mean,
No.
from what I understand, you kind of had some headaches and challenges along the way. So I guess, first of all, Ukrainian born, then to Israel, then to Toronto. Tell us a little bit about that journey.
Yeah, I was born to Russian parents who lived in Ukraine because my dad was stationed in Ukraine for military. He graduated the Suvorov Academy in Moscow when he was 18 or 20 or something, and he became an officer in the Red Army before the wall came down. So then, the thing was that you get stationed somewhere away from home, and he got stationed in Ukraine, which was about, I don't know, maybe 1,000 kilometers away or whatever from where he was born. That's where me and my brother were born. And we grew up there until I turned about 12 or so. And that's where we moved to Israel because my dad made a mistake. He borrowed $10,000 from a local gangster. And so back in the 90s in Ukraine, that's sort of like the Peaky Blinders era in England, the 1920s. So the gangsters are running pretty much everything. And if you've got a legitimate business, then they're racketeering and you have to pay them for protection. So anyway, my dad was no different. He had this little tire shop, and next to it, he built a tiny little restaurant that the people who would come in to fix cars would go and wait in the restaurant, and they would like buy something to eat. And so he decided at one point to invest in a farm. You might have heard the term. It's called a kolkhoz, which is like the state-owned farm in the Soviet Union. But after the union fell apart, these got privatized, and so he wanted to invest in one and grow produce because he was always somehow involved with food his entire life. So he borrows $10,000 from this gangster, and him and a few buddies invest together. But 6 months later, they discover that the CEO, the farm CEO, the head honcho over there, spent all the money on alcohol, gambling, hookers, you name it. So he basically blown through all the money. Now, back in the day, that's big money. $10,000, that's like a lot. People get killed for that. So we end up selling our apartment, the car. My dad was really proud of the car, actually. It was a Ford Sierra 2.3 liter diesel engine. He was really just a huge fan of the Western car manufacturing. So it was like he was really proud of owning a Ford, which wasn't like a common thing back then.
Mhm.
So we sell everything, we pay off the gangster, and we immigrate to Israel because of the Jewish connection that we have. And then once we came there in Israel, about 6 months after we moved, he felt sharp pain in his chest. He went to the hospital. They put him into an emergency bypass. He undergoes a bypass or a double bypass, I think it's called, and that leaves him pretty much unable to find any decent work for the next 10 years. He pretty much goes on and off these positions such as security guard, assistant chef, things like that. But he's not able to hold on to a job for more than 3 to 6 months, just because either it's too physically intense and he really can't handle it, because of his heart, or because of the way the law book is written for employment in Israel. Basically, if you get hired somewhere and you remain employed for more than 9 months, then they have to like lock you in. So give you seniority, I think it's called. And so nobody wanted to do that back then. So they would hire you for 9 months, fire you, bring someone else in the meantime, and then they can rehire you again in 3 to 6 months. And that was the journey. So we pretty much most of the time lived off of my mother's income, and I witnessed my mother wake up at like 5 a.m. um, you know, always stressed out, always smoking cigarettes, always afraid of the next layoff wave or pissing off her boss. If there was overtime, she never said no because she was afraid that if she says no, she's gonna get fired. And that was kind of like our life, always struggling, always asking our relatives for money. If it wasn't for my grandmother from my mother's side, I really don't know how we would pay rent or survive. Eventually, we asked her to move in with us so we can live all together, so we get tax discount on the property taxes. Because in Israel, even if you're renting, you're still paying the property tax for that property. But as a pensioner, you get 90% discount. So that this was like a life hack to try and save some money. And my dad said, look, the only time that he remembers that where things were good is when he was in the military. So he said, you need to follow my footsteps. And uh, I went in, I got into the Israeli Air Force Academy. Um, I was around 14 back then. So 14, I'm wearing full-on uniform, Air Force uniform, marching like a soldier. I know how to use the rifle, everything. But it was like a school with a military flavor, if you will. And the journey, I guess the path that my parents wanted me to take was to graduate the academy, which I did with flying colors, and then go and enlist in the Air Force, and then do become a professional, become a contractor in the Air Force. But they didn't foresee this one thing that happened, and that is when I accidentally got my hands on Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad Poor Dad. And I wasn't a reader or anything like, but this book was very controversial at the time, and my friend actually gave it to me because his dad read it, and we got arguing with this friend. I was arguing that I'm going to school and I'm studying hard to get good grades so I can get a good job so I can be rich. And he said, there's this guy, Robert Kiyosaki, who used to be a pilot in Vietnam, that says that the richest people in the world are not the most educated ones, and that you don't need to get good grades if you want to get rich. There's something else to it. I said, there's no freaking way. He's crazy. It's like, you should read the book. And I read the book. And I was like, what? Why nobody told me? But I was young. I was lucky that I read it young. So I immediately rebelled against the system, my parents. I realized that I don't want to be in the Air Force or in the military of any kind, because it's everyone's like just thinks inside the box over there and just executes orders. That wasn't me. And I went AWOL. I did a little bit of time in the Israeli army prison for going AWOL. But eventually I got out. It took me about 6 months, but I got discharged from the Air Force with basically like a profile that said that I'm like unfit to serve. But that didn't really matter because the fact that I wasn't fit to serve in the army had no influence on my day-to-day life. I was free to start my business. And so the book also recommended that if you don't have a business idea or a business brain or any funding or anything like that, you should go into network marketing, because that's where you're going to learn how to sell. And that's exactly what I did. I went into network marketing. I stumbled between a few companies. One time I was selling website hosting. The other time was selling like a like a gas. Um, what do you call them? So basically, it's a little thing that you put inside your gas tank, so your car runs for more, like to get more mileage out of your car.
Oh, additives, fuel additives.
Yeah, fuel additives. But I ended up messing up my dad's car actually with that. He was very upset. So ended up basically failing miserably with network marketing, and like the whole talking to people, trying to recruit them. It really wasn't me. It really like I just couldn't figure it out, and I couldn't stomach actually pitching people either. I tried doing it on social media. I tried doing it in real life. I mean, I pretty much alienated all of my friends. My school friends don't talk to me to this day, probably because of that. And eventually I stumbled into another concept, and that was affiliate marketing. So affiliate marketing was a little like MLM, but it didn't require you to go pitching people in pyramid schemes. You could just choose different offers you to promote and got paid commissions without actually talking to people, because you referred people to websites through a special link that website owner would give you. So if I was promoting a website, coca-cola.com, then my link would be something like coca-cola.com/ID equals Igor. And that's where I had my big break, but not until I noticed that all the what we would call super affiliates, people who make $10,000 or more per month with affiliate marketing, they all had an email list, and they could make money as easy as sending out an email to that email list and just telling people to go buy something or refer them to your free report with a bunch of affiliate links in it. And so that was the big clue for me. So that's how I got into list building. I tried every which way to do it, by the way. The first 8 months, I tried doing it with free traffic exclusively, like posting on social media, blogging, article marketing, I mean, you name it. If there was a free way to do it, I tried it. Didn't quite work. I learned that free, methods were like not so scalable. I had very little control over the results. Like you could go viral with something, but you really couldn't control how that would pan out. And I was always at the mercy of some sort of algorithm, be it Google or Instagram or whatever. So that's how I got into paid traffic. And with paid traffic, even though I didn't have any money, I went on, got a job and got another job. So I worked two jobs just to have a little bit of money to invest in my business. I was able to invest a little bit, recoup money through my list, invest some more, recoup again, invest, recoup until I grew my list to a point where I could make more money with one email than I was making it working full time for a whole month at my day job. And from there, I just kept scaling and scaling and scaling until I felt safe to finally walk away from my job, which incidentally, I didn't even have the courage to, you know, to quit. I was like fired because they caught me not doing my like I was just bringing my laptop and just doing the marketing stuff.
Yeah.
And eventually they caught up with me.
So at this point, you were still in Israel?
Yes. So
Okay.
I made my first $1 million with list building while I was still in Israel. I had no plans of moving, by the way, because my whole family is there. So the decision to move out of Israel was a difficult one. It took me several years to make it, and that's because I was really, really, really attached to my family. But eventually, with the situation in Israel never getting better, it's always at war with somebody. There's like, internal conflicts, the Social Security getting bankrupt every few years. The taxes are crazy because you have to fund the war machine. So the taxes on a small business owner can go as far as like 60%.
Ooh.
I figured, you know what? I just don't see a future here. And so I ended up moving to Canada. And that's where I had another culture shock. I discovered that Toronto was like the fourth most expensive city in the world, I believe. Um, and the winter is pretty brutal, but the Canadian passport was pretty good. And the fact that the country is really safe and has lots of water, all those things played well into what I needed at the time. But eventually, I figured that it wasn't the place for me. So now I'm working on moving back to Europe. But the good thing about it, though, is that I can choose. And I was just writing an email about this to my list about a month ago, where, you know, whether or not I choose to stay here, it's my decision. I'm not hostage to any conditions, to any work or anything like that. I got a buddy, he's a lawyer, and he's a really good lawyer. And he's got a great reputation here. He knows what he's doing. Like he's top of his field. Okay. He's making good money. I don't know exactly how much, but I'm guessing at least $250,000 a year. I mean, he's a lawyer. He's got a license to print money. So, and he's a really nice guy, which you don't really get both, you know, at the same time. Good lawyer and good guy. Like this one is an exception. But and he shares all of my sentiments about Canada and the West and where the West is going, how things are not like as good as they used to be, but he can't leave. He really can't. His entire client base is here. He has to have meetings in person. He has to, be here for this to work. And so even during the winter months, he's not able to leave Ontario for more than like a week or two at a time to his house in the Dominican Republic or, to go vacation in Mexico because he has to be here and work. I've been blessed with having an email list that's hosted online. My income streams are online, and I don't really like, I just can pack this laptop and go away. And no one would tell the difference. I spent the last year, I took, I think, 6 or 7 trips that included Orlando, Miami, Mexico. 3 times I went to London, one time to Bulgaria. And throughout all this time, my income remained exactly where it is. I didn't have to sacrifice anything. I didn't have to say no to any money, and I didn't have to, necessarily shut the door in the income streams because it's all online. And I was just actually working on this new training that I'm putting together, the 7 Principles of Freedom, and I realized how having an email list really is the embodiment of the whole seven principles, which are low overhead costs, location freedom, global reach, no fixed hours, which means you can set your own hours, scalability, automation so you can work smart, and multiple streams of income. If you have all seven, you're essentially a free man who can live anywhere, work out of anywhere, just like you, right? I mean, even doing this right now, you're in an RV, you're out there somewhere traveling, and you're basically your own boss.
100%. So now the question is, how do you get started? How does somebody that has not done anything to build an email list, how do they get started? And is there a fast track to build an email list?
So there's definitely a fast track if you work with somebody who's done it many times before and they have a system, which obviously would be very self-serving for me to say that I do. So if we ever have time towards the end, I'll share more about that. But in fundamentally, here's something you need to have in place for you to start building your email list. First off, you need to have an offer of some kind, which means you can't be building a list in a vacuum. There has to be an offer to a certain group of people or a market. So that's where any business starts, right? That's how you actually make money. You exchange value for money. You exchange solutions or services or your time for money. So once you have that and you know your target market, you'd need a capture page. A capture page is a one-page website, very usually very simple, doesn't need to be super beautiful or anything like that, that is designed to grab the visitor's email address in exchange for unlocking the offer, or sometimes in exchange for something of value like lead magnet or anything else. And there's many types of lead magnets, and I'll cover them in a sec. So this page will literally have a call to action of some kind. For example, the three-step system to fixing acne once and for all if you're a male over 55 years old, with diabetes. Like being very specific here, but basically making an offer of some kind, right? So the prospect has a problem, and you're saying, look, I have a solution to that problem. And then to unlock that solution, they need to enter their email in a little box. And I'm sure, listening to this or watching this, you guys have seen this more than once. A page that basically says, enter your email here, and we will email you more information. That's what a capture page is. Now, sometimes people call it a landing page, sometimes people call it a squeeze page, but it's essentially it's what it is. It's a page designed to ask you for an email address. Once somebody enters their email address, that email address has to go somewhere. It has to go onto a database of some kind. So for that, we use something called an email sending tool. It's also known as an email autoresponder. Now, the autoresponder simply means that it can send out emails automatically. So when somebody enters their email, it goes through the web ether, it goes into that software, which is very easy to use. Usually it's online interface. So there's lots of software for that, like literally hundreds at this point. But some of the more popular ones would be Active Campaign, Constant Contact, Aweber, GetResponse, ConvertKit, Keep. Again, no shortage of software at this point. So it goes into that software, and then the software initiates a follow-up email, right? So even if somebody enters their email into your website at 2 a.m., then that person will get an automated email follow-up right away. Again, even if it's 2 a.m. So this way, you don't have to manually sit down and type that email for every person who enters their name and email into your form. Now, the other thing that this software does is it allows you to send out an email blast. Now, an email blast, let's say you've built a list. Let's say you've been at it and you've spent a couple of months doing it. Now you have a 5,000 person email list. And so what you could do using that software, the email autoresponder software, you can sit down at your computer and you can click a button that says email everybody and just type in an email like with an offer, or maybe just say hi, or maybe send them to an article. Doesn't matter what the content of the email is, and just hit send. And what that software is going to do is going to copy that email 5,000 times and send it to all 5,000 inboxes. Now imagine if we didn't have that software, we would have to literally copy and paste that email 5,000 times. Like back in the day when we were sending out, physical letters, right? We would have to put it in an envelope, write on it, lick, stamp, and do it 5,000 times. So now we live in an age of automation where we don't have to do it. In fact, as we're speaking, there's probably somebody opting into my list and getting an email from me, right? And I'm like, here. But I could just as easily be on the beach, playing ping pong, watching a movie with my wife. I could be anywhere. And so the beauty of this is that it allows you to make money in an automated way. So when they say that having an email list allows you to make money just by hitting the send button, that's exactly what they mean. But more so, imagine the leverage you're getting. So let's say, for example, you've got an email list of 1,000 people. And let's say you've got an offer or a product that you're selling for $100 and sold on a page using either a video sales letter or a long form sales letter. But it's selling, right? So let's say you sit down with your email autoresponder and you write an email saying, hey, I'm running a special on my $100 thing. And it's, I'm going to raise the price tomorrow, but in the meantime, you can get it here for only $100. You send it to 1,000 people. Let's say only 20 people respond and actually buy. Out of 1,000, just 20 people buy. That means you made, if my math is correct, $2,000 with a single email, right? Now, this is great, but it gets better. Let's say you didn't have a list of 1,000 people. Let's say you had a list of 5,000 people, and your response rates and the price of the program remain the same. So you send out an email to 5,000 people instead of 1,000 people, you make 5 times the sales, which means you make $10,000. Now, the beauty of it is this. It took you just as much time and effort to write that email and hit the send button. You didn't have to work harder. You didn't have to copy and paste that email 5,000 times. You didn't have to, do anything. The software does all the repeatable work for you. So by having a larger list, you've multiplied your income by a factor of 5. Now imagine if you did a great job with your list building and you grew that list 10 times. So you send out an email and now you're making $20,000. Now I know it sounds a little bit far-fetched, but I actually know people who literally send out one email and bring in $20,000. They can literally make money on demand.
As do I. I know a fair number of people that's all they do. But for myself and for many of my listeners, we know it's all possible. We don't necessarily know how to do it. And as I said at the beginning, I spent no time the first 2/3 of my career focusing on it. And now I'm just kicking myself as I have a podcast and I have products and I have other things. Wow, did I throw away a lot of money, literally, by not keeping those contacts for all those years. So we got the general basics of how it works. Um, Again, I'm going to kind of go back to somebody that never did it before. Now they don't have a product, but they know somebody with a product, right? They can do an affiliate. So I'm assuming you've done a lot of affiliate work with your list. How does
Yep.
that work in your world as well as somebody that's interested in figuring out how to do it?
Yeah, I still do. I have my own products and services, but I still do lots and lots of affiliate marketing. In fact, last week, I actually put together a promo where I sent out 5 emails inviting people to a webinar. And by the end of that webinar, I walked away with about $12,000 in commissions. And the guy was selling a $1,000 offer on the webinar, and I got half the money. So he walked away with about 12 grand and I walked away with 12 grand, which is, I mean, not bad for 5 emails, if you ask me, right? It's like, why not? And so affiliate marketing essentially is when you promote someone else's product and you get paid a commission if a sale takes place. So let's say I have a product. Let's say I have this water bottle that I sell for $50. Just like Amazon will give you a commission for promoting a water bottle, but they will give you 3% commission. There's tons of great and lucrative affiliate programs that will pay you 30, 50, 70, even 90% commission. And if you know where to look for them, usually in affiliate marketplaces like ClickBank, JVZoo, and other similar marketplaces, you'll see that it's highly lucrative. So all you really have to do is just drive a targeted visitor to your affiliate link, and you get paid handsomely for doing so by the vendor. Now, the question then becomes, why would a vendor give you the lion's share of the front end um, um, unit or the price? In fact, there are some affiliate programs out there that pay you equal or greater amount of money than the purchase price. Like there's affiliate programs, for example, in the supplement space, where you promote a package of 3 bottles of a supplement, and let's say it costs $50, you get a flat $70 commission for doing so. So, think how absurd that is. The customer buys something for $50 from a website, and for referring that customer, the website pays you $70. Now, the reason they do that is because the most expensive thing by far for any business today is getting a new customer, period. It's 10 times easier to sell something to an existing customer than it is to convince a brand new customer to transact with you. So these companies figured out a long time ago. I mean, this industry goes back, I think, 30 years at this point. Some of the pioneers were the hosting companies and travel companies, but now almost every industry is leveraging affiliate marketing. In fact, yesterday I was promoting an affiliate program for a company that helps with taxes, entity formation, and estate planning. I mean, you'd think this is like one of the most boring things you can talk about, but that company pays 15%, 20% commission for referring somebody to use their services. So, because of that, because the most expensive thing that a business does these days is getting a customer, businesses figured out that they can simplify and streamline and scale by bringing in affiliate marketers like myself and like thousands of other people, and just rewarding them handsomely for bringing in the customer. And then they focus on working with that customer and turning them into repeat customer, while the affiliate goes on to find the next customer. And that's why it's so easy to create multiple streams of income with your list, even if you only have one product of your own or no products of your own, right? Because there's no shortage of offers you could be promoting as an affiliate that actually really fit into the universe that you're building. For example, if you've got a list on the subject of weight loss or building muscle, there's tons of weight loss and muscle building affiliate programs out there that you can pretty much promote every day if you wanted to.
Yeah, and for all my listeners, if you have a list, I am absolutely more than happy to talk to you about an affiliation with my No Means Not Yet negotiations course. And we have uh in the podcast space, a lot of us that have our own podcasts, we do swaps and go on each other's podcasts, and that's what a lot of it is about, is creating those relationships. And I'm a firm believer in I'm not gonna push a product that I don't believe in or that I think is not good for my listeners. But I love that aspect of what we do now. So
Yeah, there's no one puts a gun to your head and says you have to promote this product, you have to promote that product. You get to call the shots and you get to say, I will only promote if the product fits these criteria. When I got into affiliate marketing and I realized that my list had the firepower to make the sales, it was actually after this one successful, my very first and big successful promotion that resulted in me making about 17 sales for the $70 product. It was just, I didn't really, I was trying, to mail my list and to make money, but it wasn't working at first. You kind of have to hit critical mass. And that day I was like expecting nothing. And I just sat down and wrote like a really heartfelt email to my list talking about my back pain, because since early age, since my even teenage years, I've had some injuries from playing soccer, playing basketball, and so I had back pain pretty much for as long as I can remember. And I just sat down, and I wrote this rant of how I was sick and tired of having my back hurt and how it hurts when I'm driving in the car for a long time or when I'm on the couch watching the game. And I said, I really wish, that you don't, if you're working like a labor intensive job and you have injuries, like I really wish you didn't have to. I really wish, you could just make money from home. And this program is something I'd recommend. And so the program was called the Deadbeat Affiliate by Dan Brock. So this guy had this gimmick, always wearing like a bathrobe and socks that were like twice the size, and always like holding a PlayStation controller in his hand. So like making an impression of a deadbeat, right? And he built this amazing offer, Deadbeat Super Affiliate, and he launched it, and it was awesome. So I said, I highly recommend you look into this thing. Just came out. And I honestly didn't expect anything. I just went to bed and I woke up the next day and I made 17 sales. Now, that's the most I've ever made in a day. Just so you understand, at the time, it equaled roughly to what I was making a week working in a hotel in Israel. Like I was housekeeping, I was like cleaning rooms and scrubbing toilets. So I was like, what? There's no way. And so I just kept mailing the same offer for a few more days. And I kept my emails very personal. I spoke about the things that were dear to my heart. I let my personality shine through the email, and it just kept coming. And I even ended up landing somewhere in the top 20 leaderboard and winning a cash prize as well, which was amazing.
Mhm.
Really, I didn't expect this to happen. And so from that point forward, I became very picky about like the products I was promoting. So before deciding to mail anything at all, I would actually go and sign up, get the product myself, use a little bit, see if I can submit a support ticket and if I get a response back. So I was like really vetting everything. And if it didn't pass my BS check, then I just didn't mail it.
So is that what you still do today? I mean, keep your content personal, or is it different now?
Not every email will be all about my personal life things or my injuries or anything, but I am pretty personal in my emails in the sense that I am relatable. So in other words, I don't necessarily show photos of my kids. I don't tell people what I had for breakfast, but the values that I express through my emails are relatable values that I know my audience will connect with. Now, even if I say something that I know my audience might not see eye to eye on, I'm still okay with doing that because the worst thing you can do when you have an email list is to be what I would say vanilla.
Hmm.
If you're vanilla, if you don't have an opinion, if you're trying to offend nobody, if you're plain and you know not really taking sides of any kind, then nobody's going to follow you. People want certainty. People want personality. People want to know what you stand for. And if that is not shining through your emails, whether in the context of your niche or whether your personality, I don't think people will buy from you.
Yeah, I would agree. I have been through several marketing companies over the last 3 years, and you know it's all sales and it's all pitchy. It doesn't sound like me at all, and it doesn't convert. And when I'm just real and raw, which I'm a very blunt individual, people that know me personally know that about me. Not blunt to be mean, but just if I feel something, I'm going to say it. And that's when I usually have the best conversions on anything I'm doing. And I'm a real estate investor first and foremost, so a lot of what I'm doing is buying and selling real estate. And yes, I've got some products now, and that's the next phase. But um, I don't. I think it was maybe before we were recording. You mentioned a word, e-farming. What is e-farming?
So e-farming is a term I coined to introduce people to list building because being somebody who has to go out there and sell people an idea, such as you need to build a list, I've encountered a lot of resistance. When people hear a list or an email list, they think spamming people. They think, you know, basically that you're a nuisance and that you're trying to just intrude into people's inboxes. That's not true. What we do opt-in email list building, um, which is permission based. So we don't like email cold. We don't just get a file with a bunch of email addresses and start blasting them. We don't do that. We have people come to us to our landing pages, give us their email, and ask us to send them more information. So the term e-farming came when I was working on a webinar where I wanted to do a big webinar to really make people understand how important it is to build a list. In fact, it's so important that I even started looking up all the different celebrities that do it. And I found that Lady Gaga does it. The prince who left the guy who married Meghan Markle, he does it actually. They got a book or something, so they built a landing page for that. President Obama uses it for his charities, former president, and used it in his campaigns to collect donations. Arnold Schwarzenegger has a big email list that's all about mental and physical health. The list goes on and on and on. Like, so it goes well beyond the digital marketing space. If anyone who's anyone, you'll usually find that they have some kind of an email list. Like, for example, Serena Williams or Venus Williams, I always confuse them. They have a clothing store. So they have an email list and they email every single day. Now, so when I was working on that webinar, I just had like this idea that I'll call it e-farming, which will stand for email farming, because that's really what we do. We farm emails on the internet, and then, we nurture them, we grow them, we build a relationship with our audience, and then just like a money tree, this tree grows, and then we email them with offers, so we're like picking the apples. So it just made a lot of sense to me to draw this analogy to farming, because what happens is you you um sow, you nurture, and you reap. I mean, that's exactly what I've been doing for years now.
No, that's fantastic. How often do you email, and what percentage is content, and then offer? Because believe me, I have been studying this stuff recently just with my own marketing efforts. And obviously, if people are getting hit with offers nonstop, they're going to stop responding. Your response rates go down. You start ending up in spam filters. So if you were going to send out 10 emails, is it 9 emails of content and one offer? Or where's your sweet spot?
That's a very common question, and I'm gonna shatter some bad beliefs, maybe even make a few enemies, but I'm gonna say that I send out emails every day, sometimes several times a day, and I pitch in every email. Now, sometimes this pitch might be an invitation to a webinar, sometimes it's a pitch to download a book, but more often than not, the pitch is to actually go and buy something. The idea that people get mad at you for selling stuff is only true if they feel like they're being sold or pressured into something. And that's usually created as a result of having very dry kind of sales content, which is like straightforward, just go buy, go buy, go buy.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is that if you only mail content or mail content a lot, then you're creating the opposite effect of that, where they stop seeing you as somebody they should be buying from. You're almost conditioning them not to buy from you, in the same way that when you're dating or when you're trying to court a lady, you can end up in what we call the friend zone by being
Well,
too nice to her, by being too, caring and too timid around her. So basically, again, very similar to how you flirt with a woman and then you escalate to a date and then beyond with your email list. When I email my list, there is a portion where I'm being informative but entertaining, but then I transition into a pitch of some kind in every email. In some emails, especially if I'm getting close to a deadline of some kind, I'll just go straight to the point, but not in every email. Most of the time, I use a technique that's called infotainment, which I learned from my friend Ben Settle. And it's also called edutainment by some people. And this technique basically means that you you express an opinion, or you pick a fight with an enemy, or you talk about a common mistake people make, or you tell a story, but eventually you transition into pitching something regardless. And that's very, very important, because if you don't do it, if you don't pitch your list, they learn to not expect you to pitch them. So if and when you finally get around to doing that, they are mad at you for how dare you to sell me something. And that's even worse if you always send out free, useful content. I think the biggest mistake by far, be, after, of course, not mailing the list at all, which is the most common mistake and the deadliest one, because if you don't use it, you lose it. The second most common mistake is to be sending out free, useful, dry content, which conditions the list to basically put you in what we would call the friend zone.
Damn, I like that. And it's again, it's fresh for me because it's something that we're working on right now. So I have more stuff to talk to my team about now, which is fantastic. It's one of the best parts about being a podcast host. It's self-serving. I'm not gonna lie. I got questions. I got Igor here. I'm gonna ask questions. That's what we do, right? Well, I want to be respectful of your time, Igor. What's one question I should have asked you that I didn't?
I think you asked some pretty good questions. I think the only question that we didn't it's not really a question, it's more of a issue that we didn't discuss, that I briefly alluded to just a moment ago, is that there's some sort of mental barrier that people have about list building, and that is this. So in my community, I help people build a list. We have many different programs to do it. Sometimes it's self-educating programs, sometimes it's done with you programs, sometimes it's done for you programs. So I've helped lots of people build a list. And I've seen this time and time again where people build the list but don't email the list. So they're like afraid to put themselves out there to the list. They're afraid that the people on that list will be, annoyed with them or be angry at them for, God forbid, like pitching them with a product or something like that. And I think that's a key mistake. So once you started building your list, the most important thing is to email that list every single day. Even if you don't plan on pitching the list with anything, at the very least, communicate to the list. Because, there's another common thing that happens is, when people recognize me as a list builder, they always, come to me and they're like, Igor, I have this list I've had for 5 years of like 1,500 people that I've met at conferences, or 5,000 people that have downloaded this freebie, but I haven't emailed it in 5 years, 3 years, 1 year, 6 months. What can I do? And the sad part is almost nothing. Like, they forgot about you, and if you email them now, it's like you're unwanted, unwelcomed, and they just hit the spam button on you, and when that happens, your deliverability goes down. So the most important thing, once you've started building your list, mail the list, and preferably mail the list every day. Now, earlier you described yourself as somebody who isn't afraid to just say what he feels, or AKA the straight shooter, right? And I think that's a great quality for anyone who has an email list. If you're just being a straight shooter about what's going on in the industry, what's going on in your life, and the work you're doing with, let's say you're a coach or consultant, and you can just be shooting straight about the work you do with clients to your list. Let's say you're a hypnotherapist and you were just working with a woman who you're trying to help quit smoking, but she refuses because she's hung up on this one belief that smoking gives her a sense of control. Write a straight shooting email about that to your list, and that will resonate with many people who read it, and have a call to action to talk to you about potentially a free 20-minute hypnosis session or something like that. I particularly gave an example with hypnosis because one of my friends is a hypnotherapist, and he actually uses list building to get appointments.
Nice. Um, I gotta know because I'm curious as hell. How big is your list? How many people or how many emails?
So naturally, when you know how to build lists, you don't just have one.
Yeah.
Because I haven't met anyone who said, I don't need more money. I'm too skinny. You know, this just doesn't exist. So I have many different lists. And so they're now obviously in the millions. But what happens is I clean them and I purge them and I try to keep only the most responsive people on the list because if you've got a million records, your email autoresponder software bill will be very high. And the email deliverability is becoming challenging because you're mailing so many people at once. So I've learned to just remove anyone who doesn't open my emails after about 2 weeks and just focus on the ones who's most responsive. So now it's a couple 100,000 people and it's in different like niche markets. So,
Yeah.
some markets will be smaller than others and you don't really need a big list to make a lot of money. There's some markets where the list of 2,500 people will probably, result in you making between seven to about $15,000 a month. So, in my advice would be to reverse engineer what you want to be making uh, to the list rather than trying to build the largest possible list, if you will. Because not every list is equal, not every subscriber is equal. Some portions of my list are really worth more than others. Like the value per subscriber per month will be much higher by the factor of 10, 20, sometimes even 150 compared to some of the other portions of my list.
It's perfect. It's a great answer because I know where ours is at right now, and you talk about deliverability, and we've had misguided information, which got our emails basically blacklisted, and there's a lot more that goes to it, which segues me into you. You're willing to give a copy of your Amazon best-selling book to my audience?
Yeah, absolutely. I thought
Okay.
you'd never ask. So, I'd like to give you a free copy of my book, The List Building Lifestyle Confessions of an Email Millionaire. You could get it on Amazon if you wanted to. You can go there and get it right now. In fact, if you've got Kindle Unlimited or Amazon Prime, you can get it for free as a part of that membership. However, if you do that, I will not get your email address because Amazon doesn't like sharing that information. Guess why? Amazon emails multiple times a day with very targeted emails for very targeted products that fit your profile. So I don't want to feed Amazon more than I have to. So I invite you to go to igorsbook.com and get a free copy of this book. I'll actually print it for free and ship it to you. All I ask is to chip in shipping and handling. And if you're in the US, it's $10 or slightly less than that. If you're anywhere outside of the US, it's about $20. Now, for your trouble, what I'll do is I'll throw in the audible version of the book, the digital version of the book, capture page templates or landing page templates you can use to build your list, as well as several trainings on how to generate traffic, give you some email templates you can use to load into your automated email sequence, and lots more. It's a bonus package that's worth $3,200 that I'm giving to you for free just to ethically bribe you to get the book from me and not get it on Amazon. Okay. So it's igorsbook.com and you can go ahead and get it right now.
Perfect. And in order to build my list, I will also have a link at thegenerationsofwealth.com/email millionaire. And that is a better place to go get it. So I build my list. But no, I love it, Igor. I really appreciate it and appreciate you doing that for my audience and your time. Like we've been going for almost an hour and I could talk to you for another hour, but I know that you've got other things to do and so do I. So again, really appreciate everything you've talked to us about today.
Yeah, my pleasure. I can talk about this stuff for hours. This is what I do for a living, and I truly believe that there's nothing else out there that encompasses all the seven principles of freedom, like list building, and it goes into the backbone and foundation of pretty much anything. Like whether you're doing a podcast, selling coaching or consulting, writing books. I mean, I launched this book. How do you think it became an instant Amazon bestseller? I mailed it to my list and I said, hey, get this book right now before I think I set a 3-day deadline because there was like a window that you have to go with Amazon, and I'll give you a bonus. So people went in, they bought, and I gave them a bonus. All of a sudden, bam, it's up there in the top 10. I think it was in the top 3. And it was the same week that Gary Vee launched his book. So it's just, I mean, when you have an email list, it's like almost anything you do becomes an instant success. Like you got a platform to carry out that message, and that's very powerful.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to wrap it up. Thanks for being here. Anybody that's listening to this show, watching this show, also check out Igor's show, the List Building Lifestyle Podcast. And for both of us, go out there, like it, share it, give us 5 stars, 13 thumbs up, whatever the platform is, wherever you find us. It really helps us to expand our network, and which will help you as well. So until the next show, go out there, live your vision, love your life, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you for joining us on another insightful episode of Generations of Wealth. May your newfound knowledge help you in leveling up your own strategies to get through the many obstacles to your money-making processes and bring you much closer to the financially secure life you truly deserve. Continue filling up your accounts and further polish your financial tactics by listening to more episodes of the podcast at thegenerationsofwealth.com. Because in your wealth building journey, there is no other way to go but up, giving you the chance to finally live your vision, love your life. That's all for now. See you on the next one.